1971. So not surprising the shock that everyone felt when Home Ministry announced directives for mock civilian drills to be conducted across the country yesterday. Preparations are underway for these drills tomorrow. With the embarrassing memories of 1971 still in mind, Pakistan is completely spooked. From its saber rattling to provocations at the border and playing victim at the global platform, it's trying what it always does best but hasn't found any takers yet. For India, across the country, mock drills will take place tomorrow. From Kashmir to Maharashtra and beyond, citizens are now being asked to be ready for any eventuality. But are we? Current generations have no idea what it's like to be in a war. On top of that, warfare has changed dramatically since 1971. So are we ready as a nation? That question we'll take forward with our guests in just a bit. But the last time, as I mentioned, these scales of drills were conducted were in 1971, 2 or 4 days in fact before the India-Pakistan war. Cities switched off visible lights to mimic blackout conditions to avoid detection during nighttime airstrikes. Sirens would go off in the evening telling the civilians to turn off the lights, and there were public service announcements that happened through All India Radio as well. Civilians were advised to hide by running underneath a table, for example, whenever they heard the sirens go off, and if outside, to lie down on the ground and shut their ears. Officials would conduct patrolling to ensure adherence to these mock drill protocols. Let's take a look at how these mock drills are being prepared for across the country. They are to be conducted across 244 civil defense districts in 9 states and union territories. The exercise will be carried out in few selected sites in these civil defense districts. So these are visuals from Uttar Pradesh's Lucknow. Civil defense, police and local administration rehearsing a mock drill in police lines. Air raid sirens were set off during the drill to prepare citizens of what they need to do in a situation like this. In yet another video that we've accessed, officials engaged in the mock drill in rehearsing what to do in case of an emergency. You can see they were seen providing mock assistance to injured in the case of an attack. Mock drills were also conducted in Uttar Pradesh's Jaunpur. Dozens of police officers equipped in riot gear demonstrating how one must deal with, act and behave in a situation of crisis. Of course, these are drills that help our enforcement agencies also to refresh all of their training and get up to date with what the country will need to do. Mock drills were carried out across multiple schools in Jammu and Kashmir. Students were instructed on how to take cover under benches and tables in a situation of an attack, for example, and how they must lie down on the ground with their ears shut in case they are outdoors at the time of an attack.
ताकि आप उस चीज से अपने आप को बचा सके। शाबाश, अब वेरी गुड ऐसे ही तैयार रहना है आपको, ऐसी सिचुएशन खुदा ना खास्ता।
Also, STRF personnel, volunteers conducted some mock drills at Dal Lake in Srinagar. These are not officially part of the national mock drills that are planned out for tomorrow evening, but more of a routine exercise in the Union Territory. The mock drills were more focused on empowering citizens on what to do in case a situation arises on the lake front itself, particularly with issues like boat capsizing, etc. So the stage is set for these pan-India mock drills. They're supposed to happen all through the evening and night tomorrow. Is India ready though for war? That's the big question, and we go to our special guest joining us in just a bit.
तैयार है दिल्ली की जनता, दिल्ली की सरकार देश के साथ खड़ी है।
जो तैयारियां हैं वो देश भी कर रहा है, उत्तर प्रदेश भी करेगा और पूरा देश पूरी तरह से तैयार है।
It can also send a signal to the other side. they should realize we are serious enough about the situation that we're even preparing these things in the event of war.
मॉक ड्रिल तो होती रहती है। जिस देश में युद्ध की स्थिति पैदा होती है,
इस मुश्किल वक्त में भी हमारे ऐवान में मेरे ख्याल में न तो कोई संजीदगी है, न हुकूमत इसकी तरफ कोई तवज्जो दे रही है, और न हमारे मुल्क की इस मखसूस हालात का कोई संजीदगी से नोटिस ले रही है।
On the show, we will get you reports from across the country on how these mock drills are being planned. But first, I want to go across to our guest joining us, Lieutenant General Rakesh Sharma, former Adjutant General and former GOC 14 Corps of the Indian Army, Madhav Nalapat, geopolitical expert and Director of Geopolitics and International Relations and UNESCO Peace Chair at Manipal University, also joining us. Lieutenant General, I want to come to you first. How important are these drills? Why are they so important?
Thank you for inviting me. So let's be clear that once we took a decision on the IWT, even that time Pakistan had declared it as an act of war. Now the effect of this IWT being held in abeyance, it will be felt especially in along Chenab River and Marala headworks, which is the first headworks that comes across Chenab, comes into play where already water is becoming water starved. So, and we are energizing more dams to come up on Chenab, which is the easiest river to do so. So if the Pakistanis say this is an act of war, it could imply that they may initiate issues or initiate responses to this one as an act of war. And it is necessary for us to prepare the people, because for a very long time, we haven't carried out such drills which we ought to carry out often.
Yes.
But we haven't done so.
Yes.
And we need to create infrastructure for this purpose. So I think we are preparing ourselves, also preparing for a response to what has happened across in Pahalgam on 22nd. So it's a contest, and we have to prepare. The nation has to be prepared for the fact that Pakistanis may respond to our whatever actions we take.
So interesting what you're mentioning. You're suggesting this could be more to prepare for how Pakistan may act even as the first action, and not so much of what happens following India's impending military action?
So, the civil defense is a defensive measure. It's a measure to protect our people from the response that the Pakistanis did. If you recollect the Balakot, after Balakot, Pakistan did what was called swift retort, and they did drop some bombs into our in the Rajouri area and Nowshera area. The bombs did not hurt anybody, but they were dropped, and they were all guided bombs. So, whatever we do, and it's not right to outguess what the government is deciding to do. So it is essential for us to be prepared for a response from the Pakistan, which could come into beyond visual range missiles or whatever of those kind, and it would may land up in some cities. So we have to prepare our people that
Absolutely.
there would be a response.
Yes, Madhav Nalapat, it's very much about preparing the Indian public. In this case, post Pahalgam, I think it is almost universal in India that Indians want a very, very stiff action against Pakistan. Indians want military action against Pakistan. And yes, war is no easy business, but I think the sentiment very much is that instead of being bled with 1,000 cuts, there needs to be some sort of aar-paar ki ladai. Do you think the citizens truly understand the gravity of what they may be feeling? Are we ready as a nation?
Sneha, I tell you one
Shivani,
thing.
sir, my name is Shivani.
Yeah, sure, sorry. Shivani, let me tell you very, very clearly that there is no people more resilient than the Indian people. There are no soldiers more dedicated than the Army, Navy and Air Force of the Indian forces. I've seen their dedication. For example, and we're talking about 1,000 cuts. Well, let me tell you that Bhutto went before the UN General Assembly and said, India, we are going to have a 1,000-year war with India. And believe me, Shivani, he was not joking. The fact of the matter is, I've been tracking Indian politics and strategic issues for quite a long time. I think Pahalgam and the Indian response to Pahalgam is going to define the next Lok Sabha election. And that's why the Prime Minister is addressing us today, just less than 2 hours from now. So I'd like to say that as far as Pakistan is concerned, Bhutto talked about a 1,000-year war. By 1971, that Pakistan was bifurcated, and Bhutto himself, of course, at Shimla, he won back what, frankly, our military had gained, and all the soldiers were given back without even a single one of them standing trial for genocide. And so many of them had committed genocide. I think that is a mistake, and I think the people of Bangladesh have not forgotten that and possibly not forgiven that. I want to point out here that when we are talking today with 1,000 years, 71, as you know, Pakistan was bifurcated. In my assessment, by 2027, possibly a year or two later, Pakistan itself, what is left of Pakistan itself, will be bifurcated into Baloch, Pashtun territories, definitely. You've seen the Taliban. The Taliban is now openly backing India.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And India must make all the efforts to exploit all of these vulnerabilities. But Madam Nalapad, you interestingly said there is no people more resilient than the Indian people. You are absolutely right. But there's a whole generation, almost 70% of Indian population that knows nothing of a war.
Well, let me tell you that where a war is concerned, nobody knows anything about it. From the first few hours of the war, frankly, no one is aware at the beginning what's going to happen 3 hours from now. But the point is to plan for A, B, and C. A is the best case, B is all middling, and C is the worst case. Work for the best case, but ensure that you're resilient enough to face the worst case. And I have reason to know that the Prime Minister Narendra Modi has personally directed this effort, and we have plan A, B, and C in place. So, in my view, the Indian people are going to be tested, yes, but we have been tested before. In 1965, air raid sirens were there, in Delhi in particular. Well, it is a bit different. But
no, obviously the way this war is going to be fought is going to be slightly different as well. And I'll go to Lieutenant General on that. But before I go to him, Madam Nalapad, do you want to recount what your memories are of 1971? What are your memories? What do you remember?
Well, I can tell you, as a very young boy in 65, staying in the house, and we were afraid to even open the fridge because then you have light in the fridge. And we covered all our windows with black paper, and we had very, very small wattage bulbs, very, very tiny wattage. So we had some light, and the minute there was an air raid siren, even those lights would go off. So the fact is that I remember the black, sheeting which was given the windows. I remember the sirens going off. I remember the lights going out all over, and looking out the balcony and seeing everything is dark. It's a very unique sight. But I can tell you that under that darkness, you have very resilient people and a very resilient army, and in my view, a very resolute Prime Minister.
Lieutenant General, you want to recount your memories of the last full-scale war?
So we were also, like Professor said, young children in 65 and 71, and we went through the entire gamut as what Professor Nalapad is saying, including darkening our houses and not lighting our bulbs and guarding our streets on the roads, and still returning aircraft of the Pakis would drop bombs across. I remember seeing in Amritsar, in places called Shiata, which are now part of cities, the bombs were dropped inside the cities and made huge craters. So, those were the times we remember of 65 specifically. But, I want to raise one issue here, Shivani, that unlike what happened after the parliamentary attack, this time, the armed forces have a general mobilization has not been ordered.
Exactly. In fact, I was going to come to that point. Operation Parakram, we had such big build-up. Of course, eventually it was averted. But this time, at least on the Indian side, we are not seeing that kind of build-up.
So, since general mobilization has not been ordered, it all implies that, of course, the defensive formations would be ready. But then, that kind of conventional war, as was conceptualized during Op Prakram, is presently not in the offing. Not tomorrow, not day after, because that takes a little time to mobilize and push people across here. But the standoff attacks, nowadays the warfare has changed. The grammar of warfare has changed. It is no more wars of that kind. So the drone swarms or attacks by missiles and rockets and any other which way which is technologically possible would be thrust on it. Now there would be an attempt to control escalation, or dominate on escalation, and make sure, because war is a nasty business, and wars, there are no end to it, and you can't guarantee how the war will pan out itself. Russia is still fighting with Ukraine after 3-4 years. So the fact of the matter is that there would be attempts to dominate on escalation. However, the nation has to be prepared for this one. And if it has to be prepared, it has to be prepared. Nation has to come to know, and which many of us have been saying in last 10-12 days, that you have to prepare nation for a response which the Pakistanis might do. While we have the capabilities now, S-400s are there, and we have Rafale jets, and the army is all ready, and the navy has moved out. But then they would always be, even in the toughest of air defense and envelope that the Israelis have got, the David Sling, the Patriot, and also AGs of the Americans, the Iranians' missiles still got through and landed up in Israel.
Yes.
Despite the best of air defense envelope.
Yes.
So this is always possible, and it's right for us to prepare our people that there could be a strike or two which we are not able to hold on to, and we will have to bear with us that eventuality, and then actually cater for medical aid and also cater for how to protect ourselves in such eventuality. But having said that, we would be prepared to strike hard, strong, as we need to do so. I will add one line here. That I wrote an article yesterday in Vivekananda Foundation on this 1,000 years and 1,000 cuts. 8 decades have shown us Pakistans have not mended their ways at all. All our attempts to be goody and be nice have not paid any heed. And while we do something this month or next month, but we have to be prepared to understand that this is a long drawn affair. And we just cannot do one action this year, this month, and seize it. This is going to continue for a longer time in future also.
Yes. In fact, Madam Nalapat was talking exactly about that. You were talking about the balkanization of Pakistan, exploiting its own internal weaknesses on the economy front, trade front, let's say, the people-to-people contact front that is often used to soften the blows that come from Pakistan to India. I think the Indian government has acted very tough. I don't know how long or short public memory is going to be, but it looks like this is going to be India's default position for some time to come. But what is going to be India's objective, stated objective this time around, when from the Prime Minister to the entire cabinet has talked about unimaginable action and not stopping at the perpetrators but their backers and their handlers? If we are to solve this problem, what is our objective, end objective?
The end objective is to end the terror factory in Pakistan, to end the terror machine.
But how?
And precisely, and that is your plan A, B, and C. Now, I'm not going to second guess what plan A, B, and C are, except that there are well thought of plans. But one thing I can promise you, Shivani, that this time around there will not be what happened in '65, where we gave back Haji Pir, a wonderful pass, and then in '71 we basically surrendered everything that we had, and we to the Pakistani side in 1972 at Shimla, and because Bhutto pleaded and said, I cannot survive as a civilian president in case you don't help me. And Bhutto, of course, as you know, did not long survive that. Now, even the Vajpayee ji, we all respect him. He's one of the great prime ministers of all time, probably among the top 3. But the fact is that immediately after the betrayal of Kargil, betrayal of Kargil, Vajpayee's bus ride, if you remember, to Lahore. And then there's so much of feeling of friendship and kinship built up, and all the media in India was full of that, Amar Ki Asha. And then there was Agra. And frankly, the person who deposed and installed a military government, Musharraf, was invited to Agra by Vajpayee ji. Again, a goodwill gesture. I can tell you, I think we have learnt our lesson.
Yes.
This Prime Minister is not going to repeat what happened. I mean, even in 1947, frankly.
Yes.
In my view, we should never have accepted partition. It's a terrible thing that we accepted it. And the worst sufferers have been the Muslims of the subcontinent. The worst sufferers, Shivani. So I want to say that this time around, I can tell you very clearly, the end game, in my view, from my considered judgment, someone who's an outsider to government, total outsider, is that the end game is going to be the dismantling of the terror factories, just as the end game of Israel is the
Dismantling of Hamas.
the military wing of Hamas, the military wing of Hezbollah, and the IRGC in Iran, the three most deadly enemies
Right.
that country faces.
You're right. There's a certain opportunity that Lieutenant General possibly Atal Bihari Vajpayee had, even post Kargil. But India was in a very different situation at that time. The whole AFPAC situation was very different at that time. Things have changed, and some things have moved in a direction that benefits us today, especially. But maybe this is an opportunity for Narendra Modi. Maybe this is what has fallen into his lap. But I do want to ask you, we have to defang the Pakistani army to stop its jihadi terrorism against us. How do we do that without a full-scale war?
Well, please go back to Sunday Guardian of 2 days ago. But the reality of the situation is that Pakistan is not a healthy state. Just as what happened in Bangladesh.
Okay.
All said and done, the people of Bangladesh overwhelmingly stood with the Indian army.
Sorry, Mr.
And
Badad
not-
Nalapat, that question was for Lieutenant General. If he can continue, I have limited time. Yes.
Thank you, Shivani. The point is that there are two major issues here. One is that nation wants retribution. Retribution to what happened on 22nd of thing, which was actually tourists have never been hit in J&K at all. Neither the tourists nor the Apple trade. No, they have been kind of sacrosanct because it's the economy of that state. But this is the first time. I'm not talking about the pilgrims in which get hit once in a while. So there is a retribution required. This is a singularly different terrorist act than all acts of terrorism that we have seen over a very long time in J&K. So retribution is one part. Second part is to achieve some kind of a strategic deterrence, which should be the government policy that we must achieve deterrence. Now, see the launch pads and this so-called terrorist camps across closer to the line of control have actually little meaning because we have hit them earlier. They are 2 men and a dog, and they do not affect. And in any case, terrorists are cannon fodder for the Pakistanis.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter to them if terrorists get killed. We have to hit the people who matter in that level. And the people who matter are not located closer to, not even in Muzaffarabad. They would be located in larger areas, which also we know where their madrasas are or where their larger terror factories are, where the thinking process takes place. So, we should have those places in our crosshairs that if we can target those and, make a material difference to those terror factories and tell them, okay, we know these areas, which are in the depth areas, which are larger establishments existing in Pakistan, which can be hit and which can cause graver damage.
Okay.
Now, those and many other issues can be brought to fore where the target can be hit. But let me say that it also requires escalation control. While giving the objectives by the government of India, the government of India must have also said that there should be an attempt to control escalation so that we don't land up into a war. We become a fourth largest economy today. We cross Japan today. And economy is also important. Yes. So is Pakistan economy. We have many other things to be done. Like Professor Nalapad said, the west of Indus River in Pakistan is a very restrictive region. Even I would say the areas of Baltistan are very restrictive regions. No, we have so much to do, and there's so much of goodwill that we have in those regions which we can exploit. It's not, the grammar of war needs to be changed. The grammar of war is not only taking a rifle and firing. The grammar of war is an ambit, the whole scale of issues that can be done into the terminology to make life difficult for Pakistan.
Absolutely, and that's exactly the route the Indian government seems to be going. I do thank our guests for joining us for this conversation. Let's also bring you what's happening on ground in Jodhpur. Air raid sirens blaring loud, civil volunteers springing into action. This and more reports from across the country.
जोधपुर जो है महत्वपूर्ण है सामरिक दृष्टि से। राजस्थान, पश्चिमी राजस्थान का वो जिला जिसमें पश्चिमी राजस्थान की 1000 से ज्यादा किलोमीटर सीमा जो है दुश्मन मुल्क से जुड़ी है। यहाँ पर अगर बात करें तो हम बचपन से जो 65 और 71 के किस्से सुनते आए हैं, तमाम तरह की जानकारी हमारे बुजुर्गों ने हमको दी है कि युद्ध काल में हमको कैसे जीना है। फिर भी जो मॉक ड्रिल जो की जानी है, कहीं ना कहीं एक नागरिक को देने वाला प्रशिक्षण है। आप देख सकते हैं कि जोधपुर में करीब 18 हुटर लगे हुए हैं, जिनमें से सारे 18 हुटर जो इलेक्ट्रॉनिक है और 3 हुटर इस तरह के मूवेबल है। 2 तरह की सिग्नल दिए जाएंगे। पहला वो सिग्नल बताइए जिसमें लोगों को ये पता चले कि जो है खतरे की निशानी है।
ठीक है सर, वो खतरे की निशानी वाला रुक रुक के बजता है, मैं आपको बजा के जी।
रुबीना, ये तरीका है जिससे लोगों को पता चलेगा कि अब खतरा है, और जब खतरा टल जाए तब क्या करना है। किस तरह का यानी 2 तरह के हुटर बजेंगे, जिसमें एक पहला हुटर जो है रुक रुक के बजेगा, यानी खतरा है, जो अटैक होने के चांसेस है, या कहीं भी आपको सुरक्षित चले जाना है। आपको ऐसी जगह पर जाना है जहां पर आप सुरक्षित हो, आपके परिवार को ले जाना है। युवाओं को जो संदेश दिया जाएगा कि आपको खुद तो सुरक्षित रहना ही है, जो बुजुर्ग है, बच्चे हैं, उनकी भी आपको देखभाल करनी है। आपको पैसेंस नहीं खोना है, धैर्य रखना है, लेकिन धैर्य के साथ चतुराई रखते हुए ऐसी जगह पर जाना है जहां आप सुरक्षित हो। इसके अलावा जब लंबा हुटर बजे तब ये पता चलता है कि अब जो है खतरा टल चुका है।
We're at Dadar Suvidha Square. This is a regular market, a prominent market in Mumbai, where you see that there are hawkers which are lined up every day over here. In fact, this is also the famous Fool Gully, where you see a lot of flower hawkers who sit here. However, as a part of the special drive ahead of tomorrow's mock drill is where police bandobast has been put into place at this very location. All the hawkers, all the flower vendors have also been removed. If you also see, there are police vans, there are BMC vans which have been parked. There are several such special drive against hawkers which are taking place at several locations in Mumbai. At Gatpur West was also a similar drive against hawker took place yesterday. As far as Mumbai police sources are concerned, they've confirmed that this very drive against hawker is a part of the mock drill which will take place tomorrow, the nationwide mock drill. In Maharashtra, this mock drill is taking place at various locations. From Mumbai, Thane, Pune, all the tier 1, tier 2 cities of Maharashtra are a part of the mock drill. Further instructions about particular locations where this mock drill will take place is expected anytime now.
Now, the UN Security Council held a closed-door consultation late last evening discussing rising tensions between India and Pakistan following the terror attack in Pahalgam and the subsequent diplomatic strikes. Top sources say that while many envoys did call for de-escalation, they also posed tough questions to Pakistan over its role in sheltering organizations like the Lashkar and its role in these attacks. Pakistan tried its best to once again internationalize Kashmir and paint India as an aggressor, but besides theatrical value, there wasn't much impact. I spoke to former permanent representative of India to the UN, Syed Akbaruddin, on the same. Listen in. This is, of course, just after Pakistan managed to hold closed-door meetings at the UN. Once again, in an attempt, Syed Akbaruddin, to internationalize the Kashmir issue, while on our side, the report suggests that their attempts to do so failed. Pakistani diplomats asserted that their attempts have succeeded, or their attempts to get the international attention have succeeded. How do you look at the statements being made by their representative?
So, Pakistan has this perpetual quest to attract international attention in multilateral fora. It's not new. They've tried it many times. So what did they do this time? They tried to resurrect an agenda item which is not being discussed in 60 years, the India-Pakistan question. And what did they succeed in? Having a closed-door consultation with no outcome. It's purely an effort at public diplomacy rather than serious diplomacy. Clearly, Pakistan's grandstanding is aimed at a domestic audience. The international community does not purchase this idea. Otherwise, the Security Council would have come out, the President would have come out and told everybody that this is the outcome of the meeting and this is what we've agreed. That this hasn't happened is a clear indication that Pakistan's attempt has ended in failure, expectedly, because they've tried this many times in the past and it's not succeeded. And once again, they've tried it and not succeeded. What they are saying now to pass off is that their objectives have been met.
Yes.
Their objectives are minimal, to create a sort of a buzz around this. But if their objectives had been met, they can't convince 15 people. How are they going to convince the rest of the world?
No, they also raised the step that India has taken to put the Indus Water Treaty under abeyance, and it was expected from their side. Their representative talked about how water is life, not a weapon. How do you see those attempts, and how successful can Pakistan be at an international fora to put any pressure on India in this regard?
So the Indus Water Treaty has no linkage with the Security Council. It's not a treaty that provides for recourse to Security Council. So Pakistan raising an issue, it's a sovereign country, it can raise anything it wants. But there is no resonance for such raising because the Security Council is bound by its own regulations and rules that do not provide for an intervention on matters where they do not have a role. So let's be very clear. In the Indus Water Treaty, there is no role for a party like the Security Council to intervene and adjudicate.
But they're presenting it as an act of aggression on India's part. Will the world buy that?
If the world had bought it, you would have had a statement by the Security Council on it. Obviously, the world hasn't bought it. Neither will it buy it in the future because you can't link everything to peace and security. There are elements of peace and security in any arrangement, but there are other elements too. And India's case on the Indus Water Treaty is not only peace and security. We have also said there is a demographic issue there in terms of increase of population. There is an environmental concern there about silting, etc. So there are multiple issues other than peace and security. And the third part is terrorism. So if you look at this, there is no space for adjudication by either the Security Council or even by the ICJ, because India and Pakistan have agreed that India has a exclusion made that matters relating to Pakistan. It is not willing to adjudicate at the ICJ. So they have no locus standi. They will not be able to adjudicate. Yes, Pakistan will be able to grandstand for its own internal audience while the world moves on.
You know, the world has indeed moved on quite a bit, and that brings me to the question about the UN's role itself. Yesterday, the UN Secretary General talked about how the two countries need to sit down and work it out diplomatically, that a military solution is no solution at all. But you know, in India, a lot of people are wondering about the effectiveness of the UN, not just the UNSC, in actually sorting out India's concerns, addressing India's concern on Pakistan-sponsored terrorism. Has the body not failed on that?
So let's take it one by one and deconstruct the issues that you've raised. As regards the Secretary General's statement, that is par for the course. Every Secretary General in living memory has made similar statements saying that my good offices are available should both the countries agree to it. And they know the answer to this, that India is committed to bilateralism. It does not have any does not ever want to have a third party, whether it is multilateral.
Going across to some breaking news coming in, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has announced that India and UK have come to the agreement of a free trade deal. He has spoken out on social media on X, and I quote, "Delighted to speak with my friend Keir Starmer in a historic milestone. India and UK have successfully concluded an ambitious and mutually beneficial free trade agreement along with a double contribution convention. These landmark agreements will further deepen our comprehensive strategic partnership and catalyze trade, investment, growth, job creation and innovation in both our economies. I look forward to welcoming PM Starmer to India soon." So the India-UK free trade agreement that has been a long time coming has been announced. Interesting timing as far as the announcement itself is concerned. So India also sending a message that even as we are choking Pakistan on multiple fronts, as far as its own economic interests are concerned, they are not on the back burner. My colleague Siddhant is also joining us with more. Siddhant, outline the benefits that India will gain from this free trade agreement.
Well, you have very rightly put forth, Shivani, because Pakistan was complaining about us this morning to United Kingdom at the closed door meeting, perhaps, spreading lies about us. And in fact, just a few hours after that, India has locked the ambitious free trade agreement with the United Kingdom, I beg your pardon. Now, the India-United Kingdom free trade agreement is a proposed free trade agreement which perhaps the negotiations begin in 2022. And in fact, this is the third free trade agreement which UK has signed with the European Union. And in fact, Prime Minister Modi has spoken to Prime Minister Keir Starmer, perhaps at this moment when both sides have blocked the free trade agreement, and this announcement is directly coming from Prime Minister Modi. So it's a very, very significant step, Shivani. Perhaps this was in a pipeline from a very, very long time, but after Trump coming to power, and in fact this entire tariff war which started after that, both sides realized to speed up, and now we are getting to know that finally the free trade agreement has been locked between UK and India.
Siddhant, just stay with me. I also want to go across to my colleague Sanjay Suri, who's joining us. Obviously, increased market access, increase in exports, foreign investment, all of these are the likely benefits for India.
Well, the devil will be in the detail, but it's really a major breakthrough that we are finally here. But just consider the significance of this moment when you think that India was engaged in years of negotiations with the European Union, and we're going back a long time when Britain was a part of the European Union. And one of the principal reasons that the India-EU trade agreement could not be signed is because Britain was not satisfied with what India was offering. It wanted very much more for itself as part of the EU. Now, we're going back some time. Then this was resumed after Brexit with UK particularly. And now that has been more than 3 years. We've had so many rounds of negotiations, talks that have been inconclusive. It was supposed to have been signed by Diwali 2 years back. We've seen no movement. So this has been a very difficult one to negotiate. Relative to this, the earlier trade agreements with Australia and with the UAE were smooth enough. They went through quite quickly and they have been in place for some time. There have been very serious issues with the UK that have had to be overcome, and we now finally have agreement. For example, the UK wants more access for Scotch whisky on lower tariffs, lower duties for cars. There are issues about drugs, generic drugs. There are issues about intellectual property rights that British companies, major drug companies wanted protected. And of course, India is a major producer of generic drugs. So that has been a clash. So a lot will depend upon exactly what has been agreed through all these very difficult negotiations on seemingly impossible positions, but that gap finally has been bridged.
Sanjay, is there any understanding of what this new trade tariff reality could mean as far as trade between India and UK is concerned?
One of the certain consequences will be that there will be more access for British goods in India on lower tariffs. Now, India has been accustomed to a good deal of resistance to that from Indian manufacturers and traders. That resistance really is now passé. It really cannot be sustained in today's trading environment globally anymore, and so there will have to be some give. And when we're talking about some give, we are talking about some pain, and a good deal of pain too. There are certainly very serious issues in India's automotive industry. It has succeeded, flourished because it has been protected. Now, if a degree of that protection is taken away, it will have to learn to survive and make profit. That's what the business is about. In the face of the new imports that will be coming in from the UK on lower duties. Similarly, India has been making a great deal of liquor and of very fine quality that has held its own against Scotch whisky. Now, certainly, we are going to have Scotch whisky coming in on lower tariffs. So there will be questions for the Indian industry there. There will be questions for the drug makers, as we've been referring to briefly. So a lot will have to change, and a lot will have to change domestically. What India gets out of this is then again a question about market access. India is looking for more market access. It has to be said, therefore, that while India is looking for greater market access, there is no comparable Indian product we can think of that has such an instant waiting market for it as the Scotch whisky in India. So what India will get out of this, what it will get for its drugs manufacturers, generic drugs, textiles, leather products, engineering goods, auto parts, all of this, and because India is also strong in engineering goods and manufacture and export. So India will be looking for a good deal more for there, and no doubt there has been agreement on that, and we do have to trust that the Indian negotiators who've been at it so long have gone through all this with a fine-tooth comb over years and would have come to an agreement that works for Indian industry and Indian business, while without doubt there will be compromises along the way.
Right, absolutely. It is a very historic milestone still, nonetheless, because these, particularly as Sanjay said, the free trade agreement with UK has been a long time coming, and it has gone through some ebbs and flows as far as this entire process is concerned. Siddhant, just recount for us, all of these ups and downs and major changes that the entire process has seen over the last few years. Siddhant, your mic, please. Yes, go ahead.
When Boris Johnson was the Prime Minister of United Kingdom, and in fact, at that time, he had set a deadline. The Diwali was the deadline of that particular year, after which, when Rishi Sunak came to power, perhaps there was a lot of push which his government gave to get this FTA done. But perhaps it could not happen at that point in time, given obviously the attack on the Indian High Commission in London. Perhaps there was this Khalistani extremist issue which dominated the relations between the two sides. But after Keir Starmer becoming Prime Minister, perhaps it was one of the election promises also. And when he came to power, perhaps he has set a new goal, new deadline to get it done. And now in his regime, perhaps both sides have announced the FTA, and in fact Prime Minister Modi today spoke to Keir Starmer and confirmed the same.
Absolutely. Parikshit Luthra, my colleague from CNBC TV18, is also joining us. Parikshit, first of all, was this announcement expected today, for example, or in the coming days? How is the timing of the announcement being looked at? And secondly, could you outline the major areas where India could benefit from this deal?
Well, when Jonathan Reynolds, the UK Trade Secretary, had visited India in the month of January to have detailed negotiations with Piyush Goyal, there was an internal deadline set that this deal needs to be done in somewhere about 60 to 90 days. And already a lot of work has happened over the last few years on this deal. So clearly both ministers were working with this deadline. We saw at least two visits by Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal to the UK in the last 10 to 15 days to thrash out the remaining items from this deal. We also believe that along with the free trade agreement, the comprehensive free trade agreement, a double contribution convention has also been signed, which means that Indian workers, Indian officials who are working for short-term periods in the UK will not have to make a double contribution to social security schemes. So that is one. We're also awaiting the contours of this agreement. We also have to see what happens to the carbon tax, for example. This was a major pain point in talks with both the UK and the European Union. So has India received a carve-out? Because we just spoke to Minister Piyush Goyal and he said that if any country imposes a carbon tax on us, we will retaliate. So it remains to be seen if that carbon tax is out of the FTA altogether. Now, in terms of manufacturing, we definitely get a greater access to goods in the UK market. We have companies, large companies like Tata Motors, Tata Steel, which have operations there in the UK. And all these companies, which have very strong supply chain linkages, companies in the UK which export extensively from India, all of them are set to benefit from this deal. Now, we'll have to see what is the road. For example, if you speak about automobiles, we have to see whether there's going to be a graded reduction in tariffs over the years, as the industry is asking, or we are looking at a 0% tariff. That is something we need to watch for the fine print.
Absolutely. And I'll keep coming back to you for more of that perspective. Lord Rami Ranger is also joining us live, I believe. Lord Ranger, can you hear me?
I hear you from London.
So you're joining us from London. Thanks a lot for your time. Your first, your first thoughts on this historic trade deal being signed between the two countries?
Well, this has been a long time coming, and this is going to be the mother of all trade deals between the largest democracy and the oldest democracy, sharing each other's values of secular, democratic, and the rule of law at the heart of their governance. So therefore, this deal is made in heaven, and given the size of India's market, Britain will be to an economy which is sluggish growth. So therefore, we need the technology, Britain needs the market, India's defense industry is expanding, growing, British defense industry is contracting together. They could have a role model just like the JCB. JCB is now producing product in India and exporting to 90 countries. Similarly, product made in India will be half the price and be able to compete with Chinese, dumping the market. So therefore, I am so excited. We have worked tirelessly behind the scene, convincing these people that you don't have to watch back when you do deal with India like you have to do with China. So therefore, this is a great day for humanity, mankind, and for the world, because both are positive forces. They don't have to watch each other, and we do not threaten anybody. We are here to grow the economy, grow the world security, and bring stability to the world. So therefore, I think I am now going to open a bottle of champagne and celebrate in a style. It is one of the greatest news. We have been waiting. A colony becoming equal to its master is only because of the Sanatani's values we have, that we do have such old values that have stood the test of time for centuries, and next century belong to the Sanatanis, and they will come back to their old glory when once again India will be called Sone Ki Chidiya. So you can rejoice, you can celebrate. This is a breakthrough we have been waiting for.
Well, the spirits are certainly high. But Mr. Ranger, before I let you go, what does this tell you about the rise of India economically? That, of course, this is one of the trade deals that has now been announced. There are other trade deals in the work. We often have called the 21st century the century of India.
You see, two countries were created in 1947. want to promote people on the basis of their religion, want to promote regardless of their religion. We are taught to use merit, not to use religion to devalue our fellow citizen. We compete with the best in the world. And you'll be pleased to know I'm the only one whose company won an unprecedented 5 consecutive Queen's Award for international trade by connecting Britain to 130 countries. Again, a glory goes to the Sanatani. So therefore, we have the values. Blue chip companies are run by the Sanatanis because our values are what makes us what we are. We are unique human beings. We do not create terrorism. We do not go and we don't hate anybody. Our motto is Vasudeshwar will prevail, and it has withstood something unique about our ancient civilization. So you have really given me so much happiness that I can't tell you, because for the last, since conservative government, we were very close. We were working with them, making the case for India. Because you don't have a unstable country, it's a stable country. Your investment is safe. The people are very loyal, hardworking, motivated. You can all easily get a workforce. Well, you just have to see how many companies are investing in India because of the workforce. So therefore, our values are the best values in the world. We do not live in ghettos. We integrate in the mainstream. You'll find Indian in every aspect of British life, from politics to business to anything you say, they will be there into the defense and all that. So I think it's a historical day for humanity.
Absolutely. Lord Ranger, thanks a lot for speaking to CNN News 18 just as this news is breaking. Akash Jindal, economist, is also with us. Your first thoughts, Akash, on whether this is this is going to be beneficial for India in the long run, in the manner that, with these trade deals, Indian exporters have to also brace up for the impact. How ready are we?
I think it's a great deal. It's a phenomenal deal. It's an iconic deal. It's going to be highly, highly beneficial. Currently seeing the current scenario. See, we are in a period where we are seeing a global slowdown, global economic slowdown. We are in a period where we are seeing a tariff war. We are seeing geopolitical situations being awkward. We are seeing the issue of Russia-Ukraine being dragged along. Now, Israel issue. During all these times, it's India's diplomatic efforts, India's friendly efforts, and our Prime Minister's vision that people are at war in the world, and we have signed an FTA with UK. That's great. That's great, because that would increase global trade. That would increase India's importance in the world of global economy. And anyway, today it's been clearly predicted, apart from this deal, that in 2025 itself will be the 4th biggest economy. And now it's not Akash Jindal, the world is saying 2028 will be the 3rd biggest economy. So I think deals like this are going to be important milestones in India reaching. See, world is fighting, whether it's Russia-Ukraine, whether it's Israel issue, whether it's China-Taiwan, that issue is also boiling. And India, see how friendly we are that we have been able to do a free trade agreement during these volatile times when the currencies have been fluctuating. Still, we have done a historic deal. See, now we know we are in a period post 22nd April. What has been happening? Look, the way our neighbors have been talking, India is going ahead and signing deals. Whereas our neighbor Pakistan, nobody is even ready to give them. Once here, they are roaming around in the world with a begging bowl in their hand, and India is
the message is very clear from the Indian side that its progress is not going to be halted or hampered regardless of the menace that we have to deal with. Akash Jindal, I do thank you for joining us. A quick comment also from my colleague Sanjay Suri. Sanjay, what happens next? You were talking about the devil being in the details. When do we know the details? When does the trade deal, how long will the trade deal take to be operational?
Well, that is all the detail that we are awaiting, because it's all about the nitty-gritty. The reason this has taken so long and negotiations have been so protracted is the nitty-gritty, is the nuts and bolts. This product, that price, that margin, those export regulations, those tariffs, local taxes, tariffs from the other countries, everything, a whole range of factors has to be taken into account for each single product. And we are talking about, for example, spark plugs that India manufactures and sells to the auto industry in UK and the US.
Right.
Even for a single product like that, there are all sorts of factors that have to be considered. And these have been negotiated at great length and in great detail.
Right.
And therefore, we have to see the agreement down to its detail. But of course, we have to, without some blessings from here in Washington from Donald Trump, or perhaps it would not have been speeded up as it has been in its last stages.
Run out
Every
of time,
country
Sanjay.
is getting
Thanks a lot for joining us and giving us that perspective. We'll, of course, keep bringing our viewers more as the details come in. Time for me to take your leave. My colleague Anand Narasimhan is joining you on the other side.
Co-powered by
We're at Dadar Suvidha Square. This is a regular market, a prominent market in Mumbai, where you see that there are hawkers which are lined up every day over here. In fact, this is also the famous Fool Gully, where you see a lot of flower hawkers who sit here. However, as a part of the special drive ahead of tomorrow's mock drill is where police bandobast has been put into place at this very location. All the hawkers, all the flower vendors have also been removed. If you also see, there are police vans, there are BMC vans which have been parked. There are several such special drive against hawkers which are taking place at several locations in Mumbai. At Ghatkopar West was also a similar drive against hawker took place yesterday. As far as Mumbai police sources are concerned, they've confirmed that this very drive against hawker is a part of the mock drill which will take place tomorrow, the nationwide mock drill. In Maharashtra, this mock drill is taking place at various locations. From Mumbai, Thane, Pune, all the tier 1, tier 2 cities of Maharashtra are a part of the mock drill. Further instructions about particular locations where this mock drill will take place is expected anytime now.
जोधपुर जो है महत्वपूर्ण है सामरिक दृष्टि से। राजस्थान, पश्चिमी राजस्थान का वो जिला जिसमें पश्चिमी राजस्थान की 1000 से ज्यादा किलोमीटर सीमा जो है दुश्मन मुल्क से जुड़ी है। यहाँ पर अगर बात करें तो हम बचपन से जो 65 और 71 के किस्से सुनते आए हैं, तमाम तरह की जानकारी हमारे बुजुर्गों ने हमको दी है कि युद्ध काल में हमको कैसे जीना है। फिर भी जो मॉक ड्रिल जो की जानी है, कहीं ना कहीं एक नागरिक को देने वाला प्रशिक्षण है। आप देख सकते हैं कि जोधपुर में करीब 18 हूटर लगे हुए हैं, जिनमें से सारे 18 हूटर जो इलेक्ट्रॉनिक और 3 हूटर इस तरह के मूवेबल है। 2 तरह की सिग्नल दिए जाएंगे। पहला वो सिग्नल बताइए जिसमें लोगों को ये पता चले कि जो है खतरे की निशानी है।
ठीक है सर, वो खतरे की निशानी वाला रुक रुक के बजता है, मैं आपको बजा के
जी। रुबीना, ये तरीका है जिससे लोगों को पता चलेगा कि अब खतरा है, और जब खतरा टल जाए तब क्या करना है, किस तरह का? यानी 2 तरह के हूटर बजेंगे, जिसमें एक पहला हूटर जो है रुक रुक के बजेगा, यानी खतरा है, जो अटैक होने के चांसेस है, या कहीं भी आपको सुरक्षित चले जाना है। आपको ऐसी जगह पर जाना है जहां पर आप सुरक्षित हो, आपके परिवार को ले जाना है। युवाओं को जो संदेश दिया जाएगा कि आपको खुद तो सुरक्षित रहना ही है, जो बुजुर्ग है, बच्चे हैं, उनकी भी आपको देखभाल करनी है। आपको पैसेंस नहीं खोना है, धैर्य रखना है, लेकिन धैर्य के साथ चतुराई रखते हुए ऐसी जगह पर जाना है जहां आप सुरक्षित हो। इसके अलावा जब लंबा हूटर बजे तब ये पता चलता है कि अब जो है खतरा टल चुका है।
इस वक्त देश में जिस तरह के हालात बने हुए हैं, उसके चलते हुए तमाम स्कूलों में मॉक ड्रिल्स जो हैं वो करवाई जा रही हैं। मैं जम्मू के एक सरकारी स्कूल में इस वक्त मौजूद हूं, और जिस तरह से यहाँ पे मॉक ड्रिल आप देख सकते हैं कि होते हुए यहाँ पे जो बच्चे जो हैं वो यहाँ पे इस तरह की मॉक ड्रिल कर रहे हैं कि यदि कोई अचानक हमला हो जाता है, जिस तरह से अभी पाकिस्तान के साथ जो हालात बने हुए हैं और रिश्तों में खटास आ चुकी है, बॉर्डर पे जिस तरह का बिल्डअप बना हुआ है, कभी भी ऐसी हालात हो सकते हैं जिसमें कि जो खासकर स्कूली बच्चे हैं, जो युवा हैं, उनको क्या कुछ कदम उठाने हैं, उनको किस तरह से अपनी जान को बचाना है, क्या कुछ SOPs उनको अपनानी है, वो तमाम जो है वो इस वक्त यहाँ पे बच्चे करते हुए, और ये बच्चे उठ के जिस तरह से वापस जो है ये जो मॉक ड्रिल है ये इनको स्कूल की तरफ से सिखाई गई है। और ये कोशिश यही है कि जो ये बच्चे हैं, अगर कोई विस्फोट हो जाता है, किस तरह से जमीन पे लेट जाना है और जमीन पे लेट कर जो है वो किस तरह से अपनी जान बचानी है, ये सब इस मॉक ड्रिल में इन बच्चों को बताया गया है। हम इन बच्चों से जानेंगे आपने आज मॉक ड्रिल की, क्या कुछ आपको बताया गया है?
मेरा नाम मनप्रीत कौर है। आज हमें ऐसे बताया गया।
Namaste, Jai Hind and welcome to this edition of The Right Stand. I'm Anand Narsimhan. Bharat is battle ready. States will conduct mock drills on Wednesday, viewers. Government sources have made it very clear. In the case of war or military action against Pakistan, budget will not be a constraint at all. Defense funding allocations are already in motion. Ensuring preparedness, the government has also very clearly told us that there are surplus funds which are available for the government to dip into for emergency needs. There is a separate corpus. Bharat's fiscal deficit is currently at 4.4% of the GDP for the financial year 25-26, sharply down from the COVID era high of 9.2%. Bharat is financially prepared to support defense requirements, needs if required. Bharat is battle ready. The intent is clear. It's now for our civilians across 244 districts to be ready. At a time when Bharat has just signed a free trade agreement with the UK, we are also on the other hand telling our civilians, telling our people that we have to do our best to support the armed forces. So critical directives have been put into motion. If there are air raid sirens, to operationalize the air raid sirens, they are being operationalized to ensure swift alerts and test the effectiveness of the air raid warning system. So this will be done on Wednesday. Civilians are undergoing training for emergency response in the event of an attack. And also authorities have initiated crash blackout measures to safeguard key locations by minimizing visibility during emergencies. So when the air raid siren goes, if there is a power cut, don't try and switch on to your inverters. You got to keep everything off. That's our contribution that we can make. So we can be ready and mentally prepared in case there is a reprisal, in case there is a counteraction, in case there is something that happens from the Pakistani side on to mainland Bharat. We need to be ready across these 244 districts especially. Now, evacuation plans are being updated for better coordination. Additionally, early stage camouflage efforts for vital plants are underway to enhance security and protect them from enemy detection. These measures aim to reinforce readiness for any unforeseen situation. Also, let's try and understand some of these questions that would come to our minds with respect to the mock drill. Some of the frequently asked questions or FAQs we're trying to answer. What is a mock drill? It's an exercise conducted to prepare civilians for emergency services for wartime scenarios. Since 1971, viewers, we have not had a situation like this. Despite Kargil, despite Balakot, we've never had a situation, or 2611 Mumbai, we've not had a situation where a nation has to be in a state of war preparedness, especially the civilians. So that's why this is important for us to go through. When will the mock drill happen? 7th of May 2025. The time to be decided. It could be during the day or towards the evening in certain areas to practice the blackout aspect also. Now, nationwide alerts will be issued. Mobile notifications will be sent to the public. Sirens will be heard. Public announcements will be made. So why is this important? It is to educate all of us, our viewers, the common people, about wartime procedures. What does it mean to be in a state of war? Testing emergency response systems. Are they all working? Are we all alert? Ensuring we are all better prepared mentally and also physically and geared up to deal with the situation if it arises. Remember, There is no need to worry, no need to get anxious, no need to panic. This is a practice to keep all of us safe. It is to orient ourselves to be ready if such a time comes upon us in the near future. What to do during the mock drill? Stay calm. There should be a sense of preparedness. Exercise restraint. Do not panic. Follow the instructions from the authorities. Pay attention to the official announcements. Practice safety measures. It's a mock drill, but take it seriously. Move to a shelter or drop cover and hold. If that's what you're asked to do, that's what you should do. If you're asked to say lights out and stay lights out, stay lights out. Now, which states will see the mock drills on Wednesday? Let's try and get a quick grip. 244 districts spread across the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir, where there are 19 districts which come into play. Punjab, 20 districts. Delhi, that's the state of Delhi and the Union Territory. Then districts in Uttar Pradesh, 19. There is West Bengal, 26 districts in West Bengal. In Bihar, 5 districts. In Assam, 20 districts. Nagaland, 10 districts. Odisha, 12 districts. Maharashtra, 16 districts, especially along the coastlines. Gujarat also along the coastlines, largely including Gandhinagar also is there. 18 districts. There are critical installations in these states that could be targeted. That's the reason why. Rajasthan, 28 districts. So that makes to the list of 244 districts. Now, the significance of this mock drill is to ensure the safety of civilians during the attack. There will be testing of air attack warning sirens. People should not panic when the siren